Thanks for joining us as we take a look at 7 ways the Bible supports science, otherwise known as...
How the Bible supports science.
Okay, we go either way. It works. Either way works. Well, this is kind of working with, there's a lot of misconceptions. People say that the Bible or Christianity and science are at loggerheads. And they say that, one contradicts the other or stuff like that. And so if you have faith, I got into a discussion recently online with people who are saying that faith means just religious stuff. And I'm saying, no, faith is just believing. It has a connotation that has gravitated towards believing just in Christianity or religious things. But faith is like, if you lose faith in somebody, it has nothing to do with religion. You don't believe that person anymore. You find a hard time giving them credibility. So that's what losing faith is. And in the same way, when we think about science, sometimes we think, well, okay, it's either you have Christianity or you have science, one or the other. But I like to show how the Bible supports science. But before we get started, I want to let you know about pre-orders are available for the next short story. And we are going to do the first cover reveal for this tonight. This story is named Child of the Stone. And it's pretty much a backstory to the novel that's coming out. It's some events that take place. And they're self-contained in a way that's small enough that you can put into a short story. And it almost has like a fantasy type of feel to it. Although when you find out the true meaning of the stone, it's not fantasy. But you kind of get that hint. And it's also a bit of romance that's there. Yes, to my other fellow writers in our writers group, I actually did do a bit of romance. It's an old man and old woman, but isn't that a sweet romance when you got that? And so there's a story about them, and they are ancestors to the main character in the Healing Stone that'll be coming out soon.
So it's a prequel?
Yeah, it's kind of a short little, tiny little prequel.
You're supposed to do the prequels after you've released 3 or 4 books, and then you do the prequels. Yeah, and this is how it began.
So,
or whenever you want money grab.
Yeah, money grab. I'm not doing the money grab. So the cover art then is trying to encapsulate this, and here we go. Child of the Stone, debuting. It is actually out for pre-order now. If you go into the description for this live stream, you will see that it is available. Always just contact me. I'll make sure that you get your very own ebook. It's going to be an ebook, and you can download it to whatever ebook reader that you want to it. It is going to be short, it's sweet, and to the point. It's a good story. So
I'm so glad that you went that way with it, not where it sounded like it was going there.
What's that?
You guarantee that you would get them their own Child of the Stone.
No.
That's what it sounded like you were going with that.
No.
I'm about to say, okay, that live stream's gone dark real quick.
Yeah, we're not selling children at all. So yeah, we do have, and I usually do keep until the end of what we're going to be having coming up next. But just real quick precursor, and I'll go over this on the end. Also, on Thursday morning, we had somebody in the live stream already mentioned this. We have coming up a review on Alita Battle Angel. I'll be doing that review with Jono from Down Under. We've done several reviews with him. He's going to be joining me for that. And then next week, we will be having the official launch for the short story, because it'll be available on pre-order the first this month. Actually, you can get it now, but we're officially going to be releasing the pre-order next month. And Child of the Stone, A Test of Greed. So we're going to be talking about a lot of that. So how can science and religion, or science and the Bible specifically, how can those two meet, and would the Bible actually support it? We're going to look at 7 different ways. But before we do that, we need to talk about the definition of what I mean by science. What really is science? I'm not talking about in broader specs. Sometimes when you bring that term up, somebody say believe the science, that you have to, and it's a really weird term, because science is really kind of based on doubt. And when you say you believe the science, what is it? That came up with COVID,
What science is supposed to be the pursuit of understanding, the pursuit of knowledge. How can you trust the pursuit of knowledge?
You can trust a process.
There's a process, sure, a scientific method, okay.
But I don't think when they were talking about that, they weren't there. Just say, believe what we say. We're scientists. We're in white lab coats.
Believe my credentials.
That's
what it means.
Yeah.
Believe the piece of paper I was given for doing a correct essay.
Yeah, well, you do have a piece of paper, and that does give you a lot of science. So I am going to, so we're looking at some interaction from you guys here as well. Science is what your professor dictates it is, or else. Yeah, wasn't Fauci was saying that I am the science?
I am the science.
So he's basically saying
he is the end all be all with science. He's the atheist god.
In a way, I would say was verging on that they were talking about
definitely. That. He got a big head.
So if we're looking at it by science, I think we can do, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong on this. By science, we mean the scientific method and those disciplines based upon it. So disciplines based upon the scientific method. I didn't spell it all out here, the several steps that they're involved in observation and hypothesis, verification by experimentation, and then finally a theory. I'm not going to necessarily break that down, but tell me if this is right here. The scientific method and the disciplines that solely rely on it. Can you think of something that would call itself science that is not really based on science? I'm going to get myself in trouble with this, but some of the softer sciences, I would question whether they're really science or not.
Oh, you're talking about some of the more abstract sciences,
like psychology and sociology, those softer sciences where you can't really verify through experimentation because there's too many variables involved with it. And we're talking about people here, and also how you can't really necessarily put these in a laboratory. I mean, you can do some laboratory experiments with psychology, but you can't.
Well, there's some scientific theories that are untestable like that as well. So there's that end of it as well.
Yes, I think that's true, but you can generally support it mostly by math also. Thomas Hall said, science starts with the premise, my hypothesis is wrong. Let's find out how. That's a good way to say it.
That's a good way to do it.
You could say that when people say, well, my experiment failed, I would say it only failed because of it wasn't able to prove it. It failed because it didn't set up the criteria correctly. Not that it disproved your theory. If it disproved your theory, that your experiment worked.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because the experiment's the testing if it's one way or the other. Not that now there are a lot of variables that can go into that depending on what the actual experiment is.
Right. Paranormal research on ectoplasm. What? That's totally scientific. I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's absolutely legitimate.
No.
I don't know what Nicodemus is talking about at all.
Yeah.
Well, degree in ghost busting is a valuable degree.
Yes, he got it online. He knows for sure that that's the case. So if this is what scientific method is, what is it not? I would say that it is not. Science is not scientific institutions. They might be based on it originally, but they're not scientific institutions, maybe like the FDA, the World Health Organizations, or so forth, or systems of belief, not entirely based on the scientific method. So you may have had these that were like originally based on it, or maybe loosely based on it in some way, but they're not. So when we say that the Bible supports science, we're not saying it supports the FDA or these institutions. It's just the concept of what the scientific method entails and those sciences that are based upon it directly. So let's look at first one here. How does the Bible actually support it in this way? Encouragement of seeking knowledge. Proverbs 25 verse 2 says, It is the glory of God to conceal things, but the glory of kings to search them out. How does this help support science?
Well, right there. I mean, that's stating it, saying, hey, search it out. Look for the knowledge. Uncover what God has put in place.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is only one of many verses that are like this. There's many, especially in Proverbs and other places, where you see the example of King Solomon, what he was doing. So God is not saying, "Hey, don't look at this stuff." He's actually encouraging it. So this would be the first thing: the encouragement to seek knowledge, and this is through observation. One of the key aspects, of the first step in the scientific method. And if anyone would disagree with me, please say so. We will put you up right away and let you speak your piece. The second thing that I would say is the pursuit of wisdom. The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom, and whatever you get insight. So what is the difference between wisdom and knowledge?
Knowledge is knowing something. Wisdom is the ability to use that knowledge.
To apply it, right. If you're going to, wisdom is the wise person knows how to handle certain things. The person just with knowledge knows it, but isn't smart enough to actually apply it. And there's a difference. You can run into people that are like that. So here's an encouragement also to say that, hey, this is the beginning, and it's something that you should pursue. This line of reasoning. So the Bible,
in other words, someone that's book smart.
True.
Without actual any world application yet. That could change.
Okay.
But someone who's only read about things, never done them.
So this is going to be just very basic, going through these, and we're laying a foundation, because in a couple of weeks there's some other things that are coming up in the meantime. But in a couple of weeks we're going to look at 7 Christian scientists who changed the world. I got to be really careful how I say that. I always want to phrase it a little bit differently. I want to say Christian scientists, because that's that cult, right?
Yeah,
Christian scientists. And to say that these are 7 scientists who were Christians who changed the world. And we're going to be looking through each one of these, again, to refute the statement to say that Christians are ignorant, Christians are anti-knowledge, anti-education, anti-science, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. Again, not mixing the two, science or educational institutions, which have really gone downhill recently.
Oh, yeah.
Education
Absolutely.
in general is good. That doesn't mean that all educational institutions are good with that. So this is the second one, pursuit of wisdom. The Bible also says, Psalm 19:1 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above them proclaim his handiwork." So in this way, passages like this, and there's another one in Job 12:7-9, which says, "But ask the animals, and they will teach you, or the fish in the sea, and they will inform you." And this is not like, the Quran, where it says something obscure like this. This is metaphorical, of course.
This is intended to be metaphorical, where the Quran is the literal words of Allah. And yes, Muslims claim that the Quran does have scientific miracles inside it. You actually examine it, and it's like, it's very clear the Quran did not intend this to be taken as a scientific miracle, or in the way that most Muslims take it.
Okay, so then when Job says, "But ask the animals, and they will teach you, or let the fish in the sea inform you," is God saying, this is kind of an obvious answer, is he saying, go and talk to the animals, and they'll teach you science?
No, in fact, it's not God talking at all.
Job 17, Job 12.
Is that
probably
Job talking to God, or saying this?
No, it was probably one of his companions. I didn't look up the context of this, but chapter 12 is probably one of his companions talking to him.
So these are the words of a man who are...
Even if it were the words of God, it would be metaphorical.
It's intended as metaphor.
Yeah. So what does that mean by saying, ask the animals and they will teach you, or the fish in the sea, they will inform you? What is that saying?
Go observe them, and they will show God through their actions.
Right. Also,
show the Creator through their actions.
Ecclesiastes says, I believe it's in Ecclesiastes, go, you sluggard, and basically go study ants to see how industrious they are.
There's a part of the Quran that talks about the ants too, where they're talking King Solomon's coming, and they're warning each other to run away because King Solomon might step on them.
It's not the same.
And then they said that is an example of ant communication within the Quran, because ants communicate. Therefore, it's a scientific miracle that it's in the Quran where they're talking to each other. And I look at that saying, no, that is not intended to be taken literally.
Yeah.
Oh.
No.
But that's a claim they make.
I would agree with you. That's not. Ask the animals, and they will teach you, or both the fish and the sea inform you. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims. Let's look at this passage again. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims his handiwork. How do the heavens declare the glory of God?
Shows his
vastness. Do they say? Power. Do they physically say this? No. It's you look and you say, "Wow."
Yep.
When you look at the depths, was it the Eagle Nebula or the Eagle Head Nebula, the one that's just so the depth there, it's huge. If you were to if the Earth itself were to sit in that nebula, it'd be a speck in just how glorious the rest of that is. And that itself, I would say, that would show the glory of God. And if you study it, it's just through observation that we're able to make all these formulate these laws that then we can use for engineering and other purposes, right? So let's see. I think we've got Christ, God in flesh, taught in parables, metaphor. Yeah. So there's a place for the metaphor, right?
Yeah, there's a place for the metaphor, definitely in the Bible. In the Quran, not so much, because it's literal words. And when I'm talking about the ant thing, by the way, it's a direct quote. It's Allah saying there's a direct quote here from
okay. Well, in this in Job, he's not saying that specifically. He's saying, but ask the animals and they will teach you, or the fish and the sea. So what do we get? This is number 3, encouragement of observation and discovery. What do we get from just merely observing something?
A lot. We can form hypothesis from that. Without being able to observe, we would have never been able to know we could fly.
Right. So there are we can develop the laws of nature by observation and then experimentation based on that to kind of rule out, to say, is this what is actually going on here? And in order for that to happen, you have to have number 4, order and consistency in nature. If you do not have order in nature, if nature is not predictable, if you can't work things out this way and measure again, because now all of a sudden the laws of nature have changed, and what worked yesterday is not going to work today, is you wouldn't be able to come up with steady laws of nature or science itself if there wasn't a consistency. So does the Bible then say anything about that? It says, while the earth remains, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. Now, this is a bit of a stretch with using this verse to say that there is consistency in nature. There's other places in the Bible that you can go to as well for this. But Genesis 8 here, this verse says that, hey, as long as the earth is around, these things are going to...
There's a pattern. There's something that's
cycle.
Continuing.
Right. And based on the cycle, then, if it's deterministic, you can then have this consistency with nature and develop these laws. So I'm going to check the chat.
I mean, that part, it really points to a God who is consistent himself. Someone who's not fickle, because a God who's fickle couldn't make a consistent, constant universe like we see, that obeys laws if he himself was fickle.
Okay. He'd probably continually get in and adjust things, or maybe change his mind about some things.
Changing, flickering back and forth with it. Rules today will be gone. It'd be chaos.
Yeah. Now that's from comparing it maybe to Islam. If you look at it from an atheist standpoint, you could say that these laws would be consistent and govern. And then there's questions concerning, there are so many things that have to be so finely tuned in this universe for human beings or intelligent life to exist. Chances are pretty astronomical. I mean, way off the charts. You could say, well, you're only here asking the questions because it just happens to be this. So because you're in a universe that just happens to work this way, they do this. But you're still talking about these odds.
Yeah, just happen to do this.
Just
randomly. You know, just random.
Yeah, and that would be, I think, fuel for another live stream to talk about the odds and statistics just of that itself. So what about, this is number 4. So let me just go through what we've got so far if anybody's just joined us. We've had encouragement to seeking knowledge. This is how the Bible supports science. Number 2, the pursuit of wisdom. Number 3, encouragement of observation and discovery. Order and consistency in nature, which is supported by Scripture. And then you also have number 5, God's creation is understandable. So if you couldn't understand it, you would never be able to, or if you were discouraged from understanding it, that'd be another.
Do not question, for it may cause you to doubt. So says the Quran.
Oh, does it really?
Yes, that's a nasty one.
But Romans 1:20 says, for since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. So this actually verges onto another thing. It's because we can see God's fingerprint in the world around us and the universe around us. We're pretty much, even if we haven't heard anything, what about the people in, this distant island that have never heard about God? How is he going to send them to hell? Well, there are certain things that they can observe just by nature around them, and they're going to be held accountable for what that knowledge is at the time.
I'm going to see that in the life of Abraham.
Okay.
That he was whatever he was given, he was judged for accordingly. Because he didn't know about the cross. He didn't know about
correct
all of God's plans coming, but he trusted and
for what he was given. Yeah, what he was given. Yeah, he wouldn't be. I mean, he's like Jesus says, "I never knew you." Abraham didn't have that opportunity. He's only given that little bit. And like you're right, what he was given would be the same thing that would be given to maybe somebody else who's unreached. They're totally separate and there are still some unreached people groups in the world. Mm-hmm. Total technology. It's hard to imagine. Thomas Hall said, God left it to Adam to participate, not by creating, but by naming the animals. Adam was creating order out of chaos in this. So he was the first taxonomist, first person to divide the animals into groups. It'd be interesting to see what the naming was. Somebody said, I don't think this is really true, but somebody says he gave them their sounds. I don't know. That has a lot to do with their physiology. So I don't think he barked at a dog and said, therefore, your name is Bark.
Arf, arf.
Yeah, you're going to make that sound. Let's see. What religion are you guys? Good question. Christian. So I guess if we're saying, the Bible supporting science is kind of a bit of a giveaway there, but religion would be Christian. So that's number 5. Number 6 is use of empirical evidence. So how does the Bible support use of empirical evidence? Daniel 1:12 through 13. So this is more by example. This is something that was happening. If you guys remember this one now, this is when Daniel was in the court of King Nebuchadnezzar, and they told him, "Hey, you're going to eat whatever the king's going to put in front of you." And Daniel said, "Some of this stuff, it ain't kosher, and I'm Jewish. I'm not going to eat this stuff." So he developed something. He had a good relationship with one of the guards there, and he said, "Listen, how about if we try this? Test your servants, basically test us for 10 days. Let us be given the vegetables to eat and water to drink. And let our appearance and the appearance of the youths who eat the king's food be observed by you, and deal with your servants according to what you see." So this was setting up a bit of an experiment. There's a couple other occasions like this in the Bible where this is done. And it was used as a method to prove to the guard and to the king's officials to say, "Hey, listen, this works out. We get to stay kosher." And it did work out for them. And you can see it a couple of verses later where it talks about that. So this is encouraging the use of empirical evidence. So the next one would be number 7. humanity's role as stewards of creation. This is kind of a big one. When we talk about, gosh, with environmentalism, what would a Christian stance be on environmentalism here? How should we? Would it be anything? Would it be a neutral stance? It's like do whatever, or is it specific guidance that the Bible gives for this? How should Christians live according to environmental standards? Well, maybe first question would be, what really is an environmental standard? And I'm just going to put that out as an open question. Should we be environmentalists?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. How far do you go? At what point is too far? You got plenty of movements now throughout the world who push certain ideologies through, saying that we have to do it because of XYZ or climate change, which that name keeps changing. It was global warming. It was global cooling before that. Now they're going for climate catastrophe.
Okay.
So that makes me wonder because it keeps shifting their mantra around.
Right.
To say, I don't know if you guys are really diligent with it, but take care of the land, take care of what is given to you to properly maintain, keep it growing, don't just plow down everything, kill everything that's out there.
Right. Well, it does say, the Bible does say subdue the earth, right? And when plowing everything under be a form of subduing the earth?
Yes, in a very destructive manner, but not too good at stewardship now, is it?
That's right.
Yeah, great too.
Let's see. We had this. Yes, personal plight, as many of us are affected these days. I think he was just answering a personal thing in the chat here. Sorry about that. So the question about environmentalism, what role should a Christian play in that? I think you hit the nail on the head. If we go back to Scripture, what is our challenge for what God says there? Oops.
That's an awfully good question.
Okay.
At this point, it's black.
It says, and God blessed them, and God said to them, this is out of Genesis chapter 1, verse 28. He said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that was in the earth. Now, this is given in the context of them given a command to tend the garden. So there is an idea of tending. And dominion has to do with rulership and not, I'm going to beat you to a bloody pulp until there's nothing left of you, your last breath, and you're no longer breathing. So we're not talking about like a scorched earth policy, but handling it well, with pollution and taking care of the animals and things like that. But there's a limit to how far that would go, right?
Yeah, recycling. Don't throw your bottles out the window.
Yeah.
That's sort of no-brainer stuff. But then again, there's a certain point that's like, how far is too far?
Right. And so I think that's where the debate would be, is if we're going to save certain species, or if we're going to. Now, were you in the Boy Scouts?
Yes.
I think I heard something about that. Okay. Did they? They no longer exist as an organization. I think it's just called the Scouts now, and that's entirely another story. But when they went camping, was there certain policies that they had?
Yeah, they would do leave no trace, where you don't leave anything behind. You make sure to pick up after yourself. Even when you close up your tent, you fluff the duff, which is basically you put the grass back into place. Now, the world is very resilient in a lot of ways, so you don't have to worry about, I can't step on that one piece of grass because that will just change everything. No, the world has some flexibility in it and some ability to take some beating.
Right.
But don't be stupid about it. Don't go out there and just start cutting up the grass for no apparent reason and expect it to be all fine. No. You need to be responsible with what you have.
Yeah, so I think if you understand ecosystems and how they work, you don't want to damage it to a point where there's no return. And that's, I think, some of the claims about global warming and climate change have been that, hey, we are bringing these to a point of no return, and you get this hockey stick sort of approach where you hit this trigger and all of a sudden now all these changes you made have stacked up, and there's this cascade type of event that happened, I believe, was it 22 years ago, or maybe it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago. And now we're living.
We're now living in a post-apocalyptic world where there's no water out there because the water has disappeared due to global warming.
And
it's
the
all
ice
evaporated.
caps have melted by now, and there are no polar bears and things like that. So a lot of the claims that have been made
it's their own stupidity
by these groups have we're talking about observation earlier about one of the scientific parts of the scientific method. If they made these claims, they haven't come through. Basically, false prophets.
Yes, they gotta be willing to throw it out.
Right.
You're supposed to test the theory. If it fails, the test is a success because it's test and fail if the actual theory was true. If not, then you throw out the theory and go to something new. You don't just change the theory over and over again until it matches what you think you see.
Right.
Then you end up with issues.
Yeah. Yep. So we are given the earth to rule over it, to have dominion over it, and part of this mandate is to understand and take care of the natural world, which is also encourages scientific inquiry, because you say, well, how are we going to do this? That opens up the whole fields of biology and everything else that goes with that. So when you get down to it, these Bible passages provide and support a framework for scientific inquiry, exploration, and understanding, and show how the creator of the universe that he created with all its laws and constants he is not like the Wizard of Oz, a charlatan trying to conceal reality, but rather he desires us to explore the wonders that he created. And like I said, this is all just a setup to say we're going to be looking at 7 scientists who were Christians, 7 Christian scientists who changed the world. And our world would be totally different today.
Oh, absolutely.
Had they not made the contributions that they did. Thomas Hall, he's got a comment here. He said, some would take subdue and dominate as negatives, but meaning is one of responsibility, not lording over without care.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's sort of like to say, this is your region. Your dominion would be your area of control. And so he's giving us this area. He says, this is yours. Take good care of it. And so there is a lot of responsibility that goes with that. Okay, so coming up, we have next Thursday, we're talking with Jono about Alita, the Battle Angel. And going to be looking for Christian themes here, analyzing the movie. And somebody said earlier, before we started the chat, something about big creepy eyes.
Bah.
Yeah,
I am the hero you want.
You're
not. Go away.
We'll have to see that. And then next week we have coming up, we're going to be talking about the short story Child of the Stone and the theme that is behind that. We talk a lot about Christian themes in the movies that we're looking at. This is what the Christian theme that's going to be in this short story as well. I have in the comments, or excuse me, not the comments, but the description of this live stream, contact information. If you want to get that short story, contact me, EPUB, or I can even deliver it as a PDF if you want to see that. And I want to get some feedback. We're going to be talking about this next week, and would love to get your feedback on this as well. And again, we're trying. One of the things we're doing is we're looking at how the world is trying to with it putting out its mythology, how we as Christians would respond to that. And sometimes you can find some biblical truths even in their stories that come out. And those could be used as a springboard for conversations and evangelism. So until then, I appreciate your time. It's a short one today, but we will see you early Thursday morning, 7 a.m., so we can talk to the guy from Australia.
EST, right?
Yes. Eastern Standard Time, 7 a.m.
Pacific.
Not Pacific. No.
You show up when it's Pacific time. No. 7.
Yeah, I sometimes.
You're a little late.
Sometimes. Oh, and before we leave, there's a word from our sponsor.
That is a beer.
No, not really a sponsor. You know better. YouTube, that was a joke, not the real thing. But until then.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.